Well, you can see Joe Montana. He is celebrating behind me. That is because we now know exactly when the 2025 49ers season is going to begin. And that is going to be very fittingly the return of Dre Greenlaw to a 49ers uniform. The last time that we saw Greenlaw play extended action for San Francisco was week 15 of the 2024 season. 30 snaps against the Los Angeles Rams at home. 30 very impressive snaps. He and Fred Warner were awesome in that first half. And then Dre had to exit. That was the first game back from the Achilles injury. Anyway, Dre Greenlaw is going to return to a 49ers uniform in Australia, September 10th in the US. It's going to be September 11th in Melbourne, and we're going to talk about the crazy date change and the 17-hour time difference. But you're going to see Dre Greenlaw back in that 49ers uniform. This one right here, although I think the 49ers will probably be wearing their road whites. But he's going to be wearing that gold helmet alongside Fred Warner on September 11th, Australia time, September 10th, Pacific time. And the big article is up there on the San Francisco Standard. We got a lot to talk about when it comes to 49ers Rams. Puka Nacua is getting sued. He's been making some headlines, and this is supposed to be a contract off season for Puka Nacua, especially after Jackson Smith-Njigba got his record-setting deal from the Seattle Seahawks. All focus now on Puka, and not very favorable headlines for the Rams receiver. But the headlines today are about that season opener at the Melbourne Cricket Grounds. One thing I noticed, look how quickly Mike Evans has become a 49ers poster child. Davante Adams has already been with the Rams for a season. Obviously, there's Matthew Stafford. There's Mr. Brock Purdy himself. But Mike Evans, Davante Adams, the two veteran wide receivers on the respective teams, are being used to promote this game in Melbourne. Now, it's going to be the very rare game for me and for those of us who are actually at the game at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. It's going to be a morning game. It's going to be 10:35 a.m. Australia Melbourne time at this stadium right here. Seats over 100,000. That is the Melbourne Cricket Ground. Iconic place, 10:35 a.m. The reason that the game has to kick off that early is because of the time change, and they want to get this on Thursday prime time back in the U.S. So they actually pushed the kickoff back as far as possible because 10:35 a.m. Australia time is going to be 5:35 p.m. Pacific, San Francisco Bay Area time, LA time, and 8:35 p.m. Eastern time. We know that the NFL typically likes starting no later than about 8:20 p.m. Eastern time. That's Sunday Night Football. 8:15 p.m. Eastern time is Monday Night Football. That, of course, corresponds to 5:20 and 5:15 p.m. respectively Pacific time. So they pushed this back to 5:35 p.m. and 8:35 p.m. Pacific and Eastern time respectively. That means that it's 10:35 a.m. Australia time. Now, this is what the field is going to look like. A fan sent me this after I tweeted the Melbourne Cricket Ground photo. This obviously is just artificially rendered, but the place is massive and the field of play is massive. I guess the ground, right? Because it's normally used for cricket and some Australian rules football. But that playing surface, that's beautiful looking grass, by the way, at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, is so big that I don't know if the viewing angles are going to be great, but it should still be a hell of an atmosphere for the 49ers against the Rams. Now, what we do need to talk about is week 2. And the NFL has not released its schedule yet for week 2, but I would hope that both the 49ers and the Rams get home games in week 2 because they're playing in Australia in week 1, and they couldn't play a day earlier because the Seattle Seahawks are going to be playing the Wednesday season opener as the defending Super Bowl champions. So Seattle Pacific time is going to be Wednesday night, opponent to TBD. 49ers and the Rams Pacific time Thursday night. And then the 49ers and the Rams, I'm guessing both teams are going to fly immediately after the game. That's what the 49ers always do on road trips. And this one, it's going to be extra important because it's going to be about 14 hours in the air from Melbourne to the Bay Area. Here you have, I just picked off the latest flight from Melbourne to San Francisco to SFO on United. United flight number 61. As you can see, it is a long haul across the Pacific Ocean on a diagonal because you're going from Southern Hemisphere to Northern Hemisphere, and it's 14 hours and 40 minutes of travel time. Now, notice that this plane took off at 11:56 a.m. in Melbourne, and it landed in San Francisco at 8:36 a.m. So by the clock, it landed earlier than it took off by about 3 hours. Well, I think that the 49ers, if they leave just 3 or 4 hours after the conclusion of their game against the Rams, you say it's a 10:35 a.m. local start, so it will be done by what, 2 p.m. probably. 49ers wheels up 5 or 6 p.m. They'll land back in San Francisco around 3 to 4 p.m., about 3 hours by the clock before they took off. So they'll be back in San Francisco on Friday, September 11th in the afternoon, if that timetable that they apply to most of their games works for this one in Australia, which means that they'll have all weekend to sit around and watch the rest of the week 1 games. And then they'll obviously play again in week 2. The NFL is not going to give anybody a bye in week 2. I don't think the 49ers or the Rams would want a bye in week 2 because the 49ers had a bye in week 4 back in 2019. They had only played 3 games at that time, and they hated it because they didn't need it yet. It was too early in the season. So you don't want to bye in week 2, but you want favorable scheduling. I don't know if one of the 49ers or the Rams gets a Monday Night Football game. I don't know if there's going to be Monday night doubleheaders anymore. There's a chance that the NFL and its TV partners and ESPN and ABC do away with those. But if there's a Monday night doubleheader in week 2, maybe the 49ers and Rams can play separate Monday night games. They have an extra day coming off that long flight from Australia. But the fact that you cross the date line going back means that you land on the same day that you took off, and it will give the 49ers at least the weekend to chill. So I'm guessing Sunday, and I'm guessing home game for San Francisco. Maybe the NFL gives the 49ers Sunday night in week 2 because we know at Levi's Sunday afternoons in September can be brutal in the heat. So I think you might want to give the 49ers a game that starts later so that the fans over there on the east side of the stands are not just exposed to the searing sunshine from 1 to 4 p.m. And the Rams, they don't play technically indoors, but they play with a roof at SoFi Stadium, so maybe they can get an afternoon game on Sunday coming home from Australia. Anyway, that is going to be the return of this guy. I've been waiting for the exact date. I had a feeling, and I had already talked about the chances of this being on that Pacific time, September 10th date, but I wanted to know for sure. We got it for sure. We know when this long off season is finally going to end, and we're going to get to see these two guys in action together back out on that field. Dre Greenlaw, again, the last time that we saw him for those 30 snaps, I know that he played 4 snaps the week after against Miami. It was one series, and he wasn't feeling good, and he shut it down. And that was it for his first 49ers tenure. The 30 snaps that we saw from Dre Greenlaw against the Rams in that week 15 game in 2024, it was Warner, it was Greenlaw, and it was D. Winters. Remember, that was the game where Devondre Campbell ended up walking out on the 49ers. He quit. And it was because not only had Greenlaw returned and taken his spot, but D. Winters had also taken Devondre Campbell's spot, because he had usurped him on the depth chart and took over as the 49ers Sam linebacker. So the 49ers for half of that game against the Rams had an absolutely electric linebackers unit with Warner, Greenlaw, and Winters. And that is what projects to be their linebacker core to open the 2026 season. Look, I even have it out here illustrated very, very clearly on the depth chart. Warner, Greenlaw, Winters. Now, I'm headed to the NFL owners meetings this weekend, and one of the pieces of news that I'm most looking forward to gathering is, how's Nick Martin doing? Is he officially out of concussion protocol? Can I remove Nick Martin from the pink shading for good? Because it seemed that he was approaching the end of concussion protocol, but wasn't officially there yet at the end of the regular season, at the end of the playoffs, the recently concluded season. If Martin does clear that protocol, then I think I flip flop his name with maybe Garrett Wallows and maybe Luke Gifford's. Gifford is more of a special teams guy. And I think Martin could be knocking on the door of that strong side linebacker position, a job that he actually ended up earning this past season before suffering the concussion. But the reason that Nick Martin is somebody that we should focus on this weekend to get the injury update and moving forward when we're talking about the 49ers linebacker position is D. Winters is only under contract for one more season. Dre Greenlaw is only under contract for this season. Yes, Fred Warner is a long-term fixture. Yes, they've got Tatum Bethune under contract for a little while longer, but the 49ers need a weak side linebacker of the future. They need a third linebacker. They need a competent body there. I mean, this is a team that had Warner, Greenlaw, and Azeez Al-Shire when they were running the league defensively just a couple years ago. Azeez was that strong side linebacker. They're not going to get back to those days again, but with Winters slotted for that third linebacker role this year, they can take a major step up. I think the first half of that Week 15 game against the Rams, I mean, they smothered the Rams over that first half while all those guys were in. And then it went downhill when Devondre Campbell walked off the field. But I think the 49ers have the seeds planted of what could be a very good linebacker core, but extending that beyond 2026 with guys seeing expiring contracts, that's going to be what's really tricky. And I think that Nick Martin can potentially be a big piece of that puzzle. In case you guys don't remember the profile on Nick Martin coming out of college at Oklahoma State, this was a player who put up a ton of bench press reps, 27 bench press reps, so exceptionally strong for the linebacker position, moved very quickly, but was really, really raw. Somebody that the 49ers compared to Dre Greenlaw as far as natural physical skill set, but somebody who they knew was going to have to get some seasoning. And then unfortunately, once he got a lot of that seasoning at practice throughout 2025 and worked his way into that third linebacker role, Nick Martin suffered the concussion and he was in the protocol for about 2 months to end the season. And we need that update. We really, really need that update. We're going to see Shanahan. We're going to see Lynch in Phoenix, where it's going to be hot this weekend, moving into next week, unseasonably hot even for Phoenix. It's going to be close to 100 degrees for those NFL owners meetings. Thankfully, the majority of what we'll do will be inside out there in the desert. So anyway, that is up on the San Francisco Standard, the State of the 49ers Linebackers edition. And it is definitely something that everyone should check out. As far as Puka Nacua goes, there's been an alleged biting incident, and it's making all kinds of headlines, and he has now been sued for assault and battery by a woman who has accused him of biting her. So Puka Nacua is just, I don't know what's going to end up happening legally in this situation. It appears that according to the initial reports that we see online, Nacua is saying that the allegations are not true, and it's just that this is everywhere. He's been in a lot of these headlines ever since the past season for negative reasons, and it just doesn't seem to be, at the very best case scenario for Puka Nacua, this just doesn't seem to be good timing, given the fact that he's up for a massive, massive contract extension this offseason. And it's got to be a headache for the Rams as well. JSN just signed his deal. The Seahawks were able to get that done on the early end of the offseason. Yes, it is record-setting money for Jackson Smith-Njigba, but the going rate should only go higher. That's typically how these contracts work. And Puka Nacua on the field has been awesome. So if he only took, his performance on the field in a vacuum, I mean, carrying Matthew Stafford, carrying that offense has been wild, what we've seen from him production-wise. If you only look at the numbers and the production on the field, he deserves a deal that usurps even JSN's. But with all this happening now off the field for Puka Nacua, at the very least, it's a headache for the Rams, and it's a headache for him, and it's something that we're going to be watching very closely over the course of this offseason. So you can go ahead if you want to see more details of the lawsuit and the case, and you can just go ahead and type that into Google, and you could look at it. We're going to keep our discussion centered to football here, talking about the 49ers and the Rams in that Melbourne game. Obviously, the NFL using the Matthew Stafford, Devontae Adams duo to promote this game. And on the 49ers side, it is Brock Purdy and Mike Evans. That, how many days away is September 10th from now? Let's Google that. Let's Google how long from now, how many days away is September 10th? 169 days until the 49ers and the Rams play at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. I can't wait. 169 days until Dre Greenlaw's formal return to the 49ers. I mean, that game against the Rams, what a way to start the season, right? The Rams, they've added Trent McDuffie. The 49ers have added Mike Evans. I'm sure we'll see some McDuffie against Mike Evans. I think Mike Evans has a height advantage there. For 49ers also have Ricky Pearsall, who should be healthy for week one. They have addressed receiver depth with Christian Kirk. The Rams have made some re-signings, and then the big weakness for the Rams last year was the secondary. 49ers, I think there are still some things in flux with their offensive line. Well, we'll see exactly what they're going to do at left guard, but they've made some signings there. Brett Toth is part of the team now, and of course, you also have the recent addition of Robert Jones. San Francisco's defense, I think, is far from a complete product. The defensive linemen, there's so many of them that were hurt, underwent surgery to end last season, that obviously the 49ers, I think, have to make some more depth moves there. And of course, the NFL draft is waiting for both the 49ers and the Rams. It wouldn't shock me if both of these teams picked a wide receiver in the first round of the 2026 draft. And anytime you pick a receiver in the first round, you can expect him to be somebody the team tries to get involved immediately. So, I mean, we could be looking at the two older guys right now, Mike Evans and Devontae Adams, on the poster for the Melbourne game. But there's a chance that there are two new receivers, rookie receivers, who are going to play significant roles when these two rivals meet up in Australia. I can't wait to see what happens. All right, let me answer a few questions, and we will move forward now past opening day. I will say the Giants didn't get opening day right. They got shut out by the Yankees, and now it's 161 games until the postseason of baseball. It's going to be about that amount of time before the 49ers take the field for an actual game, but you'll have baseball to hold you over. Regardless of what it looked like on the field tonight for the Giants, every single time I see that ballpark, I say the Giants got this one right. Oh my goodness. It's over a quarter century old now. And I still call it Pac Bell Park. I know it's called Oracle Park now, but it has withstood the test of time. It seems even more visually stunning now than it did when it opened back in 2000. And I think every single time somebody goes out and builds a new stadium, I don't care what sport it is, that needs to be exhibit A of how to properly build a venue and build a stadium. It is unbelievable. And today, San Francisco was sparkling, on display for opening day. The team was coming out of the cable car, playing the Yankees. Then they got their asses kicked. But the ballpark was nice, and it's going to be a long season. And I just have to say that it'd be cool if the 49ers played with a view of the San Francisco skyline. Who would like that? Give this a like. Give this a thumbs up if you would like that visual. They used to be up at Candlestick. Now they're down in Santa Clara. They did get smashed, though, in this first game by the New York Yankees. Oh, well, there are 161 regular season games to go. So in baseball, it doesn't really hurt as much when you just lose the first one. In football, you lose the first one and you're like, oh, crap, we only have 16 left. That'd be like, the equivalent in baseball would be like if the season were starting in mid-September And then you lose your first game in mid-September. You're like, well, we only have 3 weeks of games left to go. We better turn it up. And there'd be a lot more panic in that situation. But in baseball, it's just such a long season. It's more of a celebration at the start of the year. People want to build Candlestick back. All right, any questions? Then I got to get going. I had to get through some of the news today. We talked about Melbourne. We have talked about Dre Greenlaw. Everybody go check out the article up on the San Francisco Standard. It is right here. State of the 49ers linebacker edition is ready for you. So please do check that out. And we go through everything, including the metrics from last year. Here, I got to get this quickly reloaded so I could show you the metrics from last year. They weren't pretty. The metrics from last year for the 49ers linebackers were very similar to the San Francisco Giants' performance today on opening day against the New York Yankees. Blue is good, red is bad. There's a lot of red. That's not good. You want more blue. And after Fred Warner got hurt, the 49ers didn't have any blue. Now I know they had a couple shining moments. They had D. Winters with the pick six against Phillip Rivers, and then they had Eric Kendricks with the pass breakup against Jalen Hurts to seal the playoff win. But I see a lot of high missed tackle rates. I see a lot of poor passer ratings, too high. You want those to be lower. That's passer rating into your coverage. I see a lot of poor grades. There was no Fred Warner for most of the season. So they obviously needed Greenlaw. They got him back at a super bargain rate. They obviously needed D. Winters, I think, to play strong side linebacker. I think that's going to be best for the 49ers. But you know what they need for the future is Nick Martin. That would help the 49ers really turn the page at linebacker moving into this season. All right. That's it. Everybody, thanks for watching. That's today's news. 49ers Rams season opener for 2026 is set. We'll talk to everybody soon.